I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Slaanesh Furies are absolutely the best Furies. All the Furies do have something to offer, but in my opinion, the Slaanesh Furies, the fact that they have Devastating Flanker, doubling their charge bonus up to 40, and also have primary armor-piercing damage, makes them the best Furies. Not to mention, they're the only flying unit for Slaanesh. Not that that's, directly applicable in terms of countering units for ogres, but it does mean that ogres don't have too many counters for them, right? And in a situation like we're currently in, where ogre cavalry is not super commonly picked, but you will see it occasionally in this matchup, the fact that this Furies can sort of swarm and surround the low model count of the armored ogre cavalry, they can do that armor piercing damage and deal with them quite effectively. Today, Coop's going to be taking 3 of them in reserve. Got some Seekers, 2 Exalted Demonettes, Fiends, Heart Seekers, and 2 Hell Scourges also in reserve. In his starting army, Herald of Slaanesh, Hell Scourge, I believe, going to be on the chariot or on foot. We'll see. Yeah, looks like on the steed. I'm not sure there. Yeah, 1 Hell Scourge, plus 3 or 4 Hell Striders, 2 regular Hell Scourge Marauders on foot, and 5 Spears, Slaughtermaster of the Great Maw, and 1 unit of Crushers with great weapons, some Lead Belchers, Bulls with Iron Fists, Saber Tusk Pack, 2 Noblar Trappers, 2 regular Noblars, in reserve, Stonehorn, Iron Blaster, 2 Maneaters, great weapons, Lead Belchers, more Bulls with dual weapons, and a couple of regular Bulls as well. So, interesting map. We're going to be on the Galleon's Cove today. Taking a look at that. Generally, this map can be a little bit tricky for Slaanesh to execute sometimes because there's relatively limited options for flanking with a lot of choke points and so forth. But generally, I mean, as long as you sort of space your army and deploy correctly, here Coops is going to do a pretty decent job of just coming forward with the spears, sort of cutting here, occupying this full choke, using his other infantry to move up and kind of contest this space as well. And then the Furies can be brought in as a reserve, especially against the Crushers here. They're going to be an awesome counter, and just in general, as a sort of an auxiliary support rear charge unit to help deal some extra damage against ogres. The fact that, while they are very squishy, you have to be very careful about when and where you deploy them in order for them not to get killed. As long as you have enough model support and you're outnumbering the ogres, and you don't get trapped in the ogre models themselves, Furies can operate with relative impunity. Let's see here. Got the Crushers moving up. I'm a little bit sad the Crushers aren't more heavily armored. They just got their helmets, their gut plates. You'd expect maybe some pauldrons. I guess they do kind of have pauldron-looking things, but it's not particularly impressive, although their mount size really is what you're looking at there in terms of what's actually impressive. Got some Marauders here going to get dropped. A little bit of Winds of Magic. Honestly, it's okay to be dealing this damage early on, but generally I would say it's better off for ogres to just be healing with their magic as much as possible. The Lead Belchers up on the high ground here are going to try and get set up in a firing position, but with no support units around, they're going to easily get dropped by these Furies. And again, the Devastating Flanker, you see how Coops sort of swooped up and over and rear charged with the 1 unit. Just huge burst damage from that 40 charge bonus, considering how low of HP Lead Belchers have. I mean, Lead Belchers lose to most Furies anyway, but particularly in this situation, 2v1 with the Devastating Flank is just, yeah, devastated. They are truly devastated. Anyway, more Spears moving up, again, just kind of occupying the choke here to a degree, and helping just to secure the objective, without the objectives necessarily being online yet. A couple of Noblars doing a similar thing over here. We've got the Hell Scourges and Spears moving up. This is potentially a juicy target to charge with all these Hell Scourge Marauders, but the Hell Striders being hidden in the woods here and sort of a surprise ambush force. More over here as well, so if the ogres do try and ogre extend, get it? Anyway, yeah, I'll stop. The Crushers do charge in. They're going to get not the best charge. I don't know if the Spear Marauders were exactly braced here. It's not the most efficient engagement, although Crushers would win this anyway, especially with the Slaughtermaster providing some extra splash damage. But here comes the surround. So the Hell Scourges don't have Devastating Flankers. So they're charging in the front right, but both of the Furies charging in the side and rear are going to be proccing that Devastating Flanker. Slaughtermaster juicing up some spells here. Another bombardment, I think. Might have missed it. I'm not sure exactly what was going down there, but regardless, the Crushers are just getting absolutely destroyed here. Hugely outmodeled. The fact that there's no Noblar support mixed in here is a big mistake, I think. One thing about monstrous infantry in general is, I mean, most units you don't want fighting blobbed up on top of each other, right? But in general, monstrous infantry fight well on top of small model size infantry. So like Noblars are really meant to stand with ogres in many cases and fight on top of each other, because what will happen is you can see the gaps between the large models of the ogres. This is space where the Noblars can filter in, potentially soak hits for the ogres, and also get some counter hits against the Slaanesh units that might deal that extra tiny little bit of damage. But regardless here, the Ogres definitely took the south end of that engagement. Heart Seekers also came in. Very expensive unit to be losing out. They took an extreme amount of damage there. But if we look at the Slaanesh Furies value, 406 value on 0 kills, quite impressive. This other one's 500 value, so already just about paid for themselves, helping to take down 2 powerful units. And still plenty left in the tank. Again, because of the general lack of Noblar support and just the fact that the Ogres lost that engagement so decisively, means that the Furies can just pull away here, even though this unit might actually face disintegration. Obviously, Furies are very much glass cannons. They can take damage very easily from a variety of sources, so they can be used to good effect, but I mean, obviously you can throw them away pretty easily as well. At 550 points, they're not a unit you necessarily want to be just throwing away. I mean, if you do lose them, it's not the biggest issue in the world, so you should over-prioritize micro. But Man-Eaters here. Also got, let's see, Vein of Slaanesh being used here to send the Slaughtermaster into an enrage, so he can't cast any spells. Slaanesh Furies also getting a little bit of a surround here, and against a character like this, where you can see there's, what, maybe 6-7 in base contact at any given point in time, you're able to do quite a bit of burst damage there as well. Anything with Devastating Flanker, because of the way the interactions work with single entities, oftentimes, if they get a surround on single entities, a number of their models are going to be in the side or rear arc anyway, so they will be getting benefit of Devastating Flanker sometimes, even if they charge into the front of a single entity, as long as that single entity doesn't have any support units to catch the models of the Furies, right? So anyway, Noblar Trappers providing some nice little counterfire here. The Ogres are trying to push back. Got Leadbelters back online. The Furies are going to probably try and resecure, find a lane, and drop down, take those Leadbelters out. But yeah, the Slaughtermaster down at this point. Crushers did come back in and are continuing to contribute, helping to tear down what's left of the Hellstriders there. The Furies are facing a little bit of bugs because of the flying unit pathing issue. Not being able to charge onto the Stonehorn there, but they are able to charge onto the Leadbelters. And again, even a charge into the front here. Handful of the models. I don't know exactly how it works with multi-model units. I would need to do some testing to see, but potentially some of these models are actually getting some attacks in the side and rear arc as well. But regardless, you can see just with the one unit sort of charging into the front, already having been somewhat tattered, doesn't nearly go as well. They are at least occupying those Leadbelters, though. In the meantime, the Heart Seekers, regular Seekers actually, along with the Herald here, doing a great job taking down that Stonehorn. Just massive armor-piercing damage there. Summoned Fury as well, of course, without the Devastating Flanker, and with just regular weapon damage. Has more overall weapon damage at 44, but still, I mean, the armor-piercing of the Slaanesh Furies in a multitude of situations, in most situations, I would say, makes them just more useful. I don't know, maybe against low armor factions, you could argue that the Khorne Furies are better. Maybe even the Tzeentch Furies are better because of the barrier if you really aggressively cycle charge with them. But here, more Furies, the regular summon Furies being brought in to finish off those Leadbelters. And at this point, things are looking pretty grim for the Ogres. They've lost most of their powerful units. You have a handful of Man-Eaters here, one healthy unit, bringing some more units in from reserve as well. Some more Bulls, some more Saber Tusks, some cheap support infantry as well. These Noblars trying to get in here. Slaughtermaster does survive, but the Furies are doing their best to try and finish him off, and the actual Slaanesh Furies do survive. Slaughtermasters don't have a ton of armor. I mean, they do have 40 armor plus a missile block chance. Not super applicable to have the armor-piercing damage, but it does help. Every little bit helps, certainly. And again, against like the Ogre Cavalry, I think is really the more applicable circumstance in this particular matchup. I mean, again, Iron Blaster too. There are a handful of high armor units for the Ogres. Not that you necessarily need the armor piercing with Slaanesh, right? Like, Slaanesh has plenty of armor piercing anyway, but in a matchup like this, where it's actually a mix of primarily low armor units, but a few key high value, high armor units, also lacking flying tools and somewhat limited range to actually punish flying units. I mean, it's a pretty ideal situation where you can take primarily a wide non-armor piercing army with anti-large, lots of spears, lots of Hellstriders in order to counter what the Ogres bring with just a few Ace Furies, which can operate with relative impunity and provide that extra armor-piercing punch where you need it, of course, alongside your other more elite armor-piercing units like these Heartseekers. Ogre player is going to throw in the towel there. Coop's coming home with the win, so very fun stuff. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. Definitely very interesting to me to see, Furies. I'm not really that much of a fan of them on principle against Ogres, but I can see here sort of what I've been describing, why Slaanesh Furies work quite well in this matchup, and I do think actually you want to take a few. Generally, I think in all matchups with Slaanesh, you want to have a few Furies just for some tactical flexibility. But here in particular, I did like the use of them going after those high-value targets. Both these two did a pretty good job paying for themselves. The other one a little bit of a struggle, but that does sort of show their issues as well. Of course, Seekers in a surround against single entities. Heartseekers as well, like I mentioned, they can do insane armor-piercing damage. Just damage overall. Great damage on the Herald of Slaanesh too. Wasn't really highlighting the spell usage there and the aggressive cycle charge play, but Coop's doing a great job utilizing that Steed of Slaanesh mount to great effect. She's very cheap in this guise too, so that is incredibly cost-effective at the end of the day. Hellstriders of Slaanesh also doing a decent job. They can struggle against Ogres sometimes if they get hit too hard, but anti-large damage certainly does come in handy. On the Ogres side here, Lead Belchers struggled even on 2 summons. I'm not the biggest fan of Lead Belchers here. I think they're a little bit too easy for Slaanesh to compromise. I think generally the best option for Ogres is just to go wide, like punch, basically. Just wide melee rush, just punch Slaanesh really, really hard. And they really cannot handle that super well, to be honest. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. It's definitely an interesting matchup. I am looking forward to playing this matchup, of course, once Slaanesh gets some more stuff, hopefully, in the future. We'll see. Alongside Immortal Empires with the Warriors of Chaos rework in the first DLC. Not sure if the Monogod factions will be getting anything then, but I sure do hope so. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification every time I upload a new video. You'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.